Finding your baby dead in his crib. It's a horrible thought, but it's reality for 3 North Idaho families who found their infant sons dead last fall.
While the government says there's no proof the deaths are associated with the vaccines, KXLY4's Kalae Chock introduces us to one mother who is adamant the vaccines killed her baby.
Yeah, Shelly Walker says the vaccinations her son Vance got 2 days before he died killed him. And though the government might be willing to acknowledge Vance's death and compensate Shelly for her loss, it is not willing to accept any blame. Shelly's story is tough to hear, but she's given us permission to use the 911 call she made the morning she found Vance in order to help share her story.
Come on, honey. I'm right here again. Ma'am? Jesus.
Ma'am? Shelly Walker made this 911 call September 15th. After finding her 4-month-old son Vance in his crib, unresponsive and limp.
Your baby's not breathing.
Blood crusted under his eyes and a dark foam coming from his mouth onto the teddy bear blanket lying beside him.
He's so cold. Please, dear God, what's taking him so long?
Medics arrived on scene minutes later and rushed Vance to Kootenai Medical Center.
And I had knelt down and I yelled into his ear. I said, Vance, don't you quit. Don't you give up on me. You fight. And at that point, when I looked up, the doctor was shaking his head like that and said that Vance was gone and that he'd been gone for several hours.
Shelly says she immediately thought of the vaccines Vance received just 2 days before.
And at that point, I don't know if they had picked him up and handed him to me. I just know that I had him in my arms, and I held him up, and I said he was so big and strong and healthy. Was this the damn vaccines? Was this the vaccines?
The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention says no. An autopsy marks the cause of death for Vance Walker, sudden infant death syndrome.
The bottom line is still that we do not know what causes SIDS, and the other bottom line from a number of studies is that vaccines are not the culprit.
And several independent scientific reviews from governments around the world claim the same thing. Still, it's hard for some to believe, considering Vance wasn't the only one. In all, 3 North Idaho infants would die of SIDS, all baby boys, all in a 2-month span, and all within 1 week of getting their 4-month vaccinations. The CDC has found nothing wrong with the lots or vaccines injected into the boys.
It's very, very easy to be anti-vaccine.
Spokane pediatrician Bob Maxner says it's merely coincidence that SIDS peaks at the same time children receive their first series of shots.
If we could eliminate crib death by altering our immunization schedule, I think you would see that happen almost instantaneously.
But Maxner says the theory has been tested and that SIDS rates do not decrease when shots are altered or when children are not vaccinated. Still, Shelly Walker blames the vaccines for her son's death.
We know our son definitely died because of the vaccines, but my husband's saying, so what are we going to do now? Go sue the pharmaceutical companies? Yeah, well, good luck with that.
Now, she and lawyer David Tarzian will file for the National Vaccine Injury Compensation Program, VICP. If the government decides Vance suffered a vaccine-related death, it will award the Walkers $250,000. But if it's an apology the Walkers want, they aren't going to get one.
They accept no blame for anything occurring. They're just saying, we've got a lawsuit, we're going to settle it, and it's not because of the vaccine. We hold to our position, but knowing that fact, we're still going to pay some money.
So parents can't really get anything in regards to, and I'm sorry, it was our fault.
Never. Not in my experience.
Dr. Maxner says that's because the Compensation Act was set up to protect doctors facing frivolous lawsuits. When doctors threatened to stop giving vaccines in the 80s because of the suits, the government recognized the public health risk and started the compensation program.
Is a person who just buried a child, who had a death in their family, it's going to look like a buy-off, isn't it? But that's not how it was set up.
Since its inception in 1988, the government has awarded claims for 3 vaccine-related deaths in Idaho. Still, the CDC and physicians like Dr. Maxner are convinced vaccinations are the safest route in protecting public health.
You're talking about people who have really committed the entire of their professional life to serve children and families. You know, it's not our job to do harm.
While Shelley understands those intentions are good, she says it's important parents trust their gut and educate themselves on what they're putting into their child's body.
When you don't have a peace about something, that leaves room for doubt. And I don't want people to ever go through a situation like this, ever, without knowing the facts.
So here are the facts. Under the government's recommended vaccine schedule, a child gets his first shot the day he's born. He'll get 6 vaccines at 2 months, 6 more doses at 4 months, and up to 7 more doses of vaccines on his 6-month checkup. By the age of 6, he will have received vaccinations for up to 14 diseases. On my blog, Morning Madness, on KXLY.com, you can read about the government's vaccine schedule, how often it's looked at and revised, and why the government says it's essential to public health. But again, as you can imagine, it's already sparked so much controversy, and so many people have emailed just in regard to their concerns. Some have said that their child had adverse reaction to vaccines. The public health district has called me saying, you know, we don't want people to be afraid of vaccines, saying this is essential to public health. So again, very controversial.
Well, and that's just it. I mean, this is horrible what these families have had to deal with, but at the same time, the diseases that they have been proven, the vaccines have been proven to prevent are horrible as well. It's tough.
And the bottom line is you just need to educate yourself, look at the research, and when you do that, look at the numbers that are presented to you and look at the history of what that research is saying.
All right, Kalae, thank you so much.